So as you guys all know, Joe Rogan has gone absolutely insane ever since he made a move to Texas. He went from being at least what seemed to be pretty progressive, debating Dan Crenshaw on universal health care, supporting Bernie Sanders, debating Dave Rubin on building codes, debating Candace Owens on climate change. So he was very progressive, and then all of a sudden he does the $100 million Spotify deal. He moves to Texas, presumably to not have to pay state taxes, and all of a sudden, 180. Just everything just went totally different. A lot of it seemed to have to do with coronavirus. He seemed to be very, very angry that he couldn't give his shitty stand-up at the Comedy Store while there was a pandemic going on. So he's spreading misinformation about the virus, now about the vaccine even, and he's continued to go through this, issue where he went from being the guy who was supposed to be the average Joe, and now he's become one of the, rich, wealthy people that he used to make fun of. So he's very disconnected at this point, and so it doesn't really land with people unless you're an Alex Jones level conspiracy lunatic idiot. So he spends a lot of time with Alex Jones, obviously, so he's gone completely insane. I did a video about one of his rants recently about vaccines, saying that vaccine passports are one step closer to a dictatorship, also saying that people don't know the history of the United States. It was all about freedom in 1776, but he apparently doesn't know that vaccine passports were well put in place in the 18 and 1900s, and the legality and the constitutionality of these forced quarantines, forced vaccinations, and vaccine passports are very, very strong in landmark cases in the Supreme Court. So he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He was also making stuff up about the vaccine, saying that, nobody had ever heard of the idea of a breakthrough case. Everybody knew that there was going to be a breakthrough case. That's exactly why we need more people to get the vaccine so that the breakthroughs can stop. Because as people are not getting vaccinated, the virus is able to mutate as it finds hosts, and it will continue to break through the vaccine as it continues to mutate. We see the Delta variant being very strong now. And, he barely mentions that people who get vaccinated have a better time with coronavirus in a very dismissive way, as if the protection against infection alone isn't over 80%, and the protection against symptomatic disease is over 90%. So the odds of you dying if you have the vaccine are pretty close, to zero, essentially. So, he's making out a bunch of lies, but it appears that Kyle Kulinski is being called out by his own supporters to call out Joe Rogan for this stuff, because it appears that the only lefties that appear to still be cordial or friends with Joe Rogan are Kyle Kulinski, and then if you want to consider Jimmy Dore a leftist, I don't know if you really can at this point, but obviously he's batshit crazy, so he's not going to tell him anything about this. I'm sure he believes in the conspiracy theories too. So that really just leaves Kyle, and it's just him essentially. He's essentially the last one, and he appears to he calls out the media for stories that make it look like the vaccine is less effective against the virus. But when Joe Rogan does it, I haven't seen him say anything about Joe Rogan talking about this. So, he's obviously got double standards. I've seen him defend Joe Rogan a lot from the media. But I guess when Joe Rogan does the same stuff that the media... I saw this over on the Kyle Kulinski subreddit. When you see this over here, this post says, Kyle, show some balls and address Rogan's insane rant comparing vaccines to dictatorship. Rogan is one of the most influential people out there. Where the fuck was this rant when the sitting president asked for the counting of votes to stop? Where the fuck was this rant when Trump's lunatics stormed the Capitol with the intent of stealing the Democratic election and hanging with the vice president? Do your job, Kyle. Do your job. This is 66 upvotes, which is a good amount on the Secular Talk subreddit, obviously. So it appears that a lot of people agree this was sent 11 hours ago. So there seems to be definitely some agreement in this. This one says, Kyle is so obviously scared of criticizing Rogan. He's the only one in that sphere that doesn't. Kyle wants to be Joe Rogan. He envies him. He looks up to him. He is his Michael Jordan or LeBron James. I would be shocked if he criticized him in the slightest. Kyle and Dor won't criticize Rogan. It's ironic because they're the ones who also criticize media for not being fair and balanced in their criticism of others. And so this is very true, especially because there are very accurate criticisms from progressive media levied against corporate media, that they essentially they give softball interviews to politicians in exchange for access, so that they will make sure that they come on the show next time. So you can't levy that criticism, which is accurate, and then yourself do the same exact thing. It's pretty unethical, to say the least. And I'm not advocating that he cancel Joe Rogan. Like, I think that there are definitely justifiable grounds to cancel Joe Rogan. But I don't think that that's tactically the best plan. Honestly, he doesn't even have to necessarily do it publicly. If he were to do it privately, that would be fine as well. But you have to do it in some form or another. Like, Joe Rogan is doing some really dangerous stuff here and shying away people from getting vaccinated. That's going to kill people. People will die. Society will suffer as we cannot return to normalcy because people are refusing to take vaccines. So it's really unacceptable just how horrible that rhetoric is and just how dangerous it is. And it appears that there's literally nobody else who can talk any sense into Joe than Kyle. Especially because we know that Joe is a big fan of Kyle Kulinski, and I think he said that he's his favorite political commentator. So considering that, he seems to honestly be like the only one with the power to do so. So at least do something. Joe Rogan is like the biggest platform, one of the biggest like independent platforms there is, if not the biggest, honestly, because any of the other ones are just, they're just corporations and corporate backed with like millions, billions of dollars. So, that's really powerful. Think about the amount of people that he's influencing with his anti-vaccination rhetoric and COVID denial rhetoric, So it's just really, really bad. This one says, Kyle lacks many things. His spine is one of them. He couldn't even stand up to the loser, Jimmy Dore. There's absolutely zero that Rogan circle jerkers like Kyle, Crystal, Jimmy, and Sagar will ever call Joe out. Joe Rogan also provides a lot of people an audience, and so Joe Rogan has a bunch of people that just basically ride him all day long because they need his viewership and they need the support of his viewership. Although now most of the people that I see defending Joe Rogan are just like batshit crazy libertarians or conservatives. But it seems like he's getting more of the libertarian cult following him, which makes sense because that's just kind of what his rhetoric is like now. It's just very libertarian in terms of, his demented view of freedom and not understanding what the American concept of freedom is. So, this is absolutely true. I do have to tell you that it is definitely pretty whack that Kyle hasn't said anything at all. He's the only one left. Again, I don't see anybody else who Joe Rogan knows that could talk some sense into him, or at least try to get him to say things that are actually correct about vaccines and him being aware of what his rhetoric is doing and that kind of stuff, and to challenge it. So Kyle is down to, he made a video, I think it was a video shitting on the media for their coverage of the protection that's gained from the vaccines. So he's down to do that. But when Joe Rogan does way, way, way worse, he doesn't say shit, at least not that we know of. So, that's really, that's weak. That's it's unethical, and there's a lot of responsibility on him because he's the only one left who has Joe Rogan's ear. So let me know what you think down below. Definitely I think that he should at least say something.